one of the key things that I've analyzed is the top search terms on Gartner.com. So we have a pool of 15,000 customers, and what they've done in 2010 was 400,000 searches on Gartner.com. And out of those 400,000 searches, what we found out is that cloud is the #1 search term, and it's followed by areas like mobility, social, unified communications, and SOA, BPM. So there are several areas that are fairly hot at the moment. And those, I would say, with cloud being #1, are the top ones that pop up into my mind.
Now this is the cloud blog, and cloud is exciting to me personally, but has cloud been on the charts every year, or is this a new phenomenon?
In reality, it is. I would have to give a mixed answer, because it has been on the radar screen of the IT folks for a couple of years, or for in some cases even more than that. There are some areas of cloud that are fairly mature and consolidated, like software as a service, for instance, but there are some areas of cloud that are emerging. Platform as a service is possibly one of the hottest areas, and in 2010 we have seen a lot of inquiries about platform as a service in specific in the context of cloud. At the moment, the type of questions that people ask are what is cloud, how can I benefit from cloud, and so we are in a sense in a blueprint kind of approach to cloud. What we are expecting is in the next 2 to 3 years to see more and more tactical questions. So how do I get started, vendor selection. So cloud is definitely #1 in terms of interest, and in the next future it will become it will go beyond strategic questions and become.
There's a couple areas that also are fascinating. One is, we call it the Facebook imperative. It's social. And are you seeing social enter the enterprise in a larger way this year?
No, absolutely. And if I stick to hard data, going beyond my personal impressions, if you want, hard data are telling us that in terms of both the inquiries, both the search terms again on Gartner.com, and even anecdotal evidence, we see that social is entering in the enterprise in a big way. I believe that it is, if I recollect correctly, it is amongst the top 20 most searched terms. And
where was it last year?
Oh, it wasn't even there. So this is possibly the big change. It has made it into the top 20 in the space of few months, if you want.
Really, that's fascinating. Yeah. There's aspects of social that are consumer-oriented, and you've also now recently taken on responsibility for covering consumer market sizing.
I'm looking at least from a sizing perspective. So how big is the consumer software spending? What are the dynamics? What are the trends? Half of consumer software spending is represented by gaming software. And more we see that the trends that are occurring in the consumer space are becoming important for the enterprise. Some of our analysts are looking at the concept of gamification of the enterprise, but more in general, I could say that in terms of the technology that the gaming industry in specific, or the consumer software industry in general offers, are cutting edge, and there's a lot to learn for enterprise vendors. For instance, the user interface, the user experience that a typical game, for instance, can offer can be extremely useful in the context of the enterprise. Think of e-learning, for instance, or any other area that needs good visuals at a minimum. And then there are also the backbone of the technology, the performance. There are a lot of ideas that can come to enterprise vendors from the gaming industry and the consumer industry in general.
And mobile, do you see iPad intersecting with all these things?
Phenomenal growth in that area. I mean, mobility, we have seen several enterprise vendors, and I'm not going to mention names, but you can probably find them all over the adverts in the market. There are several vendors that are embracing mobile, and quite rightly so. Mobility is a key area of research at the moment, just because there is a lot of interest. And mobility, funnily enough, has been around for quite some time, but it's only in the last 2 years that we've seen an explosion of attention by enterprises on mobility specifically. The intersection with cloud is important. The agility that can give if you're operating also with mobile interfaces is important, and we think there is a good future there.
Can a company that's not agile support these trends, these changing trends that are so much in demand by your clients?
Well, the counselor is leading the witness here, but
that's what I'm good at.
But I would say that let me put it this way: there is a good chance that they can actually be more agile and do better than traditional companies, if you want. So if you are in the cloud space, and if you are agile by definition, you definitely have an advantage. But then, of course, the games are fairly open, because the opportunities are open to everybody in the market that understands mobility, social, the implications from consumerization of the organization, and the good things that can come from consumer and cloud in general.
Let me end back kind of where we started. I believe you mentioned that IT spending is somewhat flat.
Mm-hmm.
However, do you believe that, maybe your data shows this, are mobile, social, and other areas, are they driving the investment? Mm-hmm. So at a higher rate than? Well,
IT spending in general, we're looking at growing at single digits, so it's not necessarily flat, but it's growing again. But definitely the areas that you mentioned are growing either double digit or very solidly in general. So there is a strong difference between the overall IT spending, which for a good chunk is made up of maintenance spending or keeping the lights on, and then there is relatively small portion of discretionary, what we call discretionary spending, which is spending on new projects. And new projects that pertain mobility or social are a top priority for CIOs today, so by default they're growing faster.
Excellent. Well, it's great to catch up with you. I really appreciate all the feedback and all the research, and I'll try to direct people to that webinar that you discussed earlier.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks, Fabrizio.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.